Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sustainable Mail Group's first symposium of 2023, Geo-targeting and direct mail, a path to greener performance. My name is Andrew Gustin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Sustainable Mail Group. Just to square out a few things right off at the very beginning, just some minor housekeeping details for the event. We're scheduled for this seminar from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. this afternoon. You can ask questions using the chat or the Q&A function. Either one will work, and we'll be monitoring those two aspects. The event is being recorded for posterity, and you'll be able to access it on the Sustainable Mail Group's YouTube channel, where you can find all of our past events. The link to that is visible in the chat right now. And if you don't want to miss any of our content, I recommend that you subscribe to that channel and also click on that bell icon when you subscribe so that you'll get a reminder not to miss any content. If you like what you see, please consider joining the Sustainable Mail Group. It's through, our sponsors and our members that this content is made available. And also there's a link provided in the chat to enable you to become part of that community. And just to that point, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Canada Post, Domtar, Spicers, and the National Association of Major Mail Users, all who've made this event possible today. So let me hand over to our moderator for today, who is Renee Yardley. Renee Yardley is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Roland Paper of the Sustana Group. With over 20 years experience in pulp and paper, she joined Roland to fulfill her passion for sustainability in the paper industry. And prior to Roland, Renee had more than 2 decades of experience in global organizations, including Tembec and General Motors, and holds a Bachelor of Commerce and MBA from my alma mater, McGill University, and an MA from Harvard University. In addition to her work with Sustana, she serves on the board of trustees of the Canadian Print Industry Scholarship Foundation, and we're thrilled that the Sustana Group is one of SMG's inaugural members. Renee, over to you. Possible that we've got Renee frozen on the screen then, so I think I'll take over here momentarily while we can end up resolving her technical details. So maybe a good starting point might be for our panelists to introduce themselves. So let's start with the folks at Canada Post. Jennifer?
Great. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jennifer Dyer. I work, as Andrew said, at Canada Post, and my role here currently is I lead the execution of the environmental plan for the Smart Mail Marketing business. And I've been with Canada Post for the last 3 years, and I think we have Renee back. So hello.
Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties. I hope that doesn't happen again. Got kicked off the internet in the hotel where I'm at. So sorry about that, everyone. So Jennifer, thank you for the introduction, Andrew, and I think you were introducing yourself, Jennifer. So go ahead.
Yes, I just introduced myself, Renee, so I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Anthony.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Matulis. I am the Channel Development Manager and Visualization Strategist here at Canada Post. My focus really is in integrating data and geospatial analytics and measurements to amplify customers' smart mail marketing campaigns. I have been here for about 2.5 years now, but my background is about almost 20 years of this geospatial analytics that I've been working on.
Great, thank you so much, Anne. And Sebastien, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Sebastien May. I'm Director of Sales and Commercialization at TC Transcontinental. I've been for TC for almost 22 years, so I started pretty young. I work more in sales concerning flyer distribution in the province of Quebec, working with retailers and brand, reaching consumers with their flyer program in Quebec.
Okay, great. So we've got some very knowledgeable panelists here today to talk about direct mail. And I know everyone on the panel, we all believe strongly in the efficacy of direct mail. A number of advertisers wonder about the role of direct mail and printed flyers in the era of digital marketing. So, Sébastien will start it off. Why can digital and direct mail printed flyers be considered complementary towards each other?
Yes, exactly. The digital flyers or digital mail has increased massively in the past couple of years. And it's always been a good complement and work in partnership with the printed flyer or the printed piece that is being distributed. We've seen there's a couple of stats that showcase that both of them together, there's more than 57% of people that read both paper flyers and digital flyers. So there's a lot of understanding that both work together, and it's a good complement. One of the reasons why is the lifespan. We know that people read flyers. There's a couple of stats there that showcase that a lot of people use the flyer in order to do their shopping and do their pre-shopping tool. But there's a lifespan to the paper flyers. We know that people will read it, keep it a couple of days, and then recycle it. So the fact that there's also digital advertising and digital flyers available to consumers, they can then use it afterwards and later in the lifespan of the flyer, go to the stores, it's easy to carry. So it's a good combination of working both together. And the flyers, there's a very good tool for the consumers to save money. We can see there are a couple of stats from our their latest Brand Spark study. If you take a look at the first one, 87% of people that help them saves money on their basket. There's another stat that says, I think it's the University of Dalhousie that did a study, is close to $1,500 per year that the average family would save by using flyers, whether it's digital flyers or whether it's paper flyers. So it's a very good combination of using both together. And we know for a fact that the younger crowd are probably more, they're often on their phones, they're probably more in line to see digital ad than the paper space. That is always the case and has always been the case, because I think there's a misconception concerning that the younger crowd does not read paper flyers, that read only digital ad. But that has not changed much in the past couple of years. When I started in the industry, the crowd of 18, 25 years old was never the main crowd of the flyer readership. It was always when people leave the house, people were living on their own, they need to shop, they need to plan. That's when the people will read the paper flyers. Now with digital, it's a huge advantage because the younger crowds see the ads more frequently than before. So that's another advantage of using both digital and paper, that there's a better market penetration to use the younger crowd with more digital ads concerning deals or flyers itself. In fact, maybe go to the other stats, the other slide, Andrew. I was mentioning that a couple of stats on the readership of print and digital flyers. If you take a look, there's 57% of people that read the printed flyer, but that also read the digital flyer. So that obviously has been a big change in the past couple of years, but there's still a lot of people that read the paper flyer itself. There's more than 70% of people that would have only read the printed flyers, so without reading the online flyer. So that is still a tool that is very well received from our consumers. They use the paper flyer, and especially in these days where the consumers need to, with all the inflation, and they need to save money, and they need to plan accordingly with their shopping. Rather it's paper or digital, it's helped them save a lot on their basket. So.
Okay, those are very interesting statistics, especially for the complementary aspect of digital with and print, with 57% of people reading both of them. So now we're going to move over to the topic of the seminar, and perhaps we can just get started similarly. I'm going to turn over to Jennifer and Anthony. What are we referring to when we refer to the term geo-targeting?
Sure. Maybe if Andrew could pull up, I think I had a third slide there that sort of gives a nice visual, but Thanks for the question, Renee. Typically in sort of the data space, when we use the term geo-targeting, it usually refers to the method. Oh, if you can just skip ahead to the third slide, perfect. Typically, it usually refers to the method of delivering different content to visitors based on location. If you could skip ahead one more slide, Andrew. Thank you. Those were some stats on brands and the compatibility with digital, which I can share with everyone later as well. But in regards to the question of the definition of geotargeting, yes, so typically in the data space, as I was saying, it usually refers to the methods of delivering different content to visitors based on location. However, within this conversation, when we're talking about geotargeting, we're really talking about the effectiveness of targeting. And that is the ability to reach the right person, the right audience with the right message at the right time. Geotargeting in direct mail is being able to really tap into various data points to target the relevant audience and where they are geographically. So really, when we talk about direct mail and we talk about Canada Post, what Canada Post is able to do with direct mail is, because we have access to every address in Canada, it's really looking at the fact that it's the combination of the millions of addresses and combining that with the billions of possible data points that it provides so much opportunity and value for targeting. And really that is the value of geotargeting within the direct mail space. And then how that then helps to eliminate waste, because you're really hyper-focusing on the right audience at the right time with the right message.
Okay, and what kind? So within that context of geo-targeting, what kind of tools are available to help with the geo-targeting?
Sure. So I'll take this one as well. So really, when we talk about tools, we can talk about like the actual physical tools we use, but really in the grand scope of things, if you're able to move to the next slide, Andrew, please, you'll see that data is really the key tool when we're talking about targeting. And in Canada, we know that we have about 15 million residential addresses and 1 million business addresses. What data allows marketers to do is to market directly to the right person. Data really enables marketers to be more cost efficient, and then it all in all results in a more environmentally sustainable campaign, and then therefore it reduces waste. I think it's important to really hyper focus on the different types of data and targeting, and those being the tools. So there's a variety here you'll see of different types of targeting and data that we speak to here at Canada Post, and that you could utilize with direct mail. And then it's figuring out how to layer them in and where to layer them in. So the different types of targeting data that we have and that we access are things like demographic data, which is things like age, gender, education. You can also look to types of data like lifestyle data, which would be data around, are they gaming fans? Are they outdoor enthusiasts? Do they really have an emphasis on their lawn and garden? So they're lawn and garden hobbyists. There also is the importance of looking at the geographic data, things like, do they reside within an urban or a rural location across Canada? Even down to things like what year their buildings are built, the property features. There's the opportunity to layer in data like behavioral data, transactional data. But when we talk about geotargeting and looking at sort of the geographical element, where it's also interesting to be able to tap into is location-based audiences. So understanding where Canadians have been, where they go, have they been into your location that you want to retarget towards them coming back to that location. There's so many different types of data that you could use, and I'm sure Anthony will speak to this in a little bit, but it's also important to how many different data points you use. So when you look at the data, and I'll just summarize here, when you look at the data and the options, what that really allows us to know is that it helps keep direct mail competitive. It allows targeting and optimization, but it also, at the end of the day, it reduces waste because you're really zeroing in on the right target, the right person at the right time with your message.
Okay, so multiple ways to use the data. So Anthony, are you going to tell us how we can actually use the data? How we use these tools?
Yeah, so just to kind of add to Jennifer's slide here, there's various forms of data. So there's the first party data, that transactional data that Jen kind of spoke about, and that's what data the customer is able to offer. Do they collect postal code data, sales transactional data? Do they have a loyalty program? What kind of data can the customer share with us in order for us to pinpoint who their actual customer is? We also have our third-party data sets, which are those demographics and lifestyles and mobile foot traffic that we can use. The really great thing about the third-party data is that it can amplify that first-party data, or you can use it for customers who don't collect data themselves in order to help them kind of target a little bit smarter. So in general, all data is relevant data. Let's be honest. So it's not about how much data you actually have. It's about how you use that data to extract insights, to make smart decisions in your future campaigns. So it really helps by reaching the best potential customers by allowing us to optimize our reach to our customers and really eliminating the waste and increasing the ROI. So target smarter, decrease the waste.
Smarter and decrease the waste. So how could we, so now I'm going to throw it open to the panel and ask some general questions. So we talked about that, how to optimize the data. So how can we use data from one campaign to measure and optimize for future campaigns?
Yeah, on my side, I can add to that. Measuring and optimizing is key for every single campaign. I truly believe that. So we've got a couple of ways that we can do that. So if a customer does have sales data, what is that post-campaign sales analysis that we can build? Do we see a sales lift after a campaign was dropped? Where did the campaign see a sales lift and where didn't it? How can we optimize there? If we're looking at foot traffic attribution, for example, we can measure 30 days prior to a campaign distributing and 30 days after. Do we see a change in foot traffic? We see an increase in foot traffic into your locations. Where did we see the foot traffic coming from and where can we reallocate from areas that we don't see traffic coming from?
Interesting. Do either of the other panels, Sebastian or Jennifer, do you have?
Yeah, I can maybe add to that. It was fun to see a presentation from Auntie and Jennifer concerning targeting and us at Publisac with flyer distribution was quite easy. If we go back 20 years ago, targeting was much easier. They gave us a store location and then let's do a 20 kilometers radius around the stores. And that was what we called targeting at the time. So what we call mass distribution, our retailers, our client, were doing all across the city. But afterwards, when it became much more strategic, it started much smaller than that. It was less technical, it was more postal code. They used to, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen like ask postal code at the cash register or in the parking lot or the door, what is your postal code? So after that, it was only, here are our clients on an Excel file or even on a piece of paper, and let's target around the stores. But like a bit like Auntie and Jennifer was mentioning, it became much more strategic. And for us as a mass distribution in Quebec, we saw a lot of savings on the numbers of doors because our clients, our partners had loyalty program, was much more sophisticated on where's my consumers, where are my transactions coming from. So it's much less than aiming in all the cities and which FSAs or which area should we target with our flyer. Even though they're groceries or retailers that does every week, they still need to optimize, they still need to target and not reach household that technically does not go to the store. And by working with some of our partners, which is agencies or the clients direct, a lot of fine tuning has been done during the years to reduce the footprint and be more precise with targeting. So that was a huge change in the past couple of years in the flyer landscape.
I think to that point, I think is always interesting that because customers and marketers have that data, they can assess and then see, you know, what does that mean? Who are my customers, and how do I find like-minded or similar customers? And that's where you can sort of use that data to help target specifically the type of people that you know already are coming and purchasing from you or using your services. So it's always very fascinating.
And especially us for a flyer distribution network, people thought that our Publisac was the same version of Publisac all across Montreal. When we first meet people that did not work in the industry, with people starting to work in the flyer program, and we would tell them that in one city, there's probably 8 different versions of Publisac, 8 different versions of people getting a bundle of flyer, and it's not the same bundle for everywhere in the city of Montreal. People are like, there's 800 versions of the Publisac in the island of Montreal. Yeah, and in South Shore, there's a lot of version as well. So people that have been working in the industry for quite some time understand targeting. And when we start working with new people that starting to work on flyer program, they're always amazed at the fine tune of the targeting, and it changed a lot in the past couple of years, which is fun.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, long gone are the days of spraying and praying. Like, that's just not happening anymore. And I'm finding that a lot of customers are more open to testing and learning now. And that really does kind of assist us in our measuring process to see, you know, what is working for them and what is not, and how can we optimize to adjust their campaigns for the next test.
So you've all mentioned data, and so for someone who hasn't done this before, what do you consider relevant data, and then how do you guide a customer into doing geo-targeting?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, all data is relevant, and so it's always a discussion with the customer in that sense, is having that conversation. What kind of data do they have? Are they collecting any data themselves? How can we incorporate other third-party data sets to amplify their current data? Or if they don't have any data, how can we assist them in getting directional data? So can we use the mobile traffic? For example, I know there's many QSRs who don't collect postal code data. They don't know who their customers are. Usually they go radius. That's normally what they would do, but because they don't know who's going into their locations. So we can use that foot traffic to geofence and figure out who's going into their locations to provide them a profile of who their actual customers are. And that really helps them target a little bit smarter and not just based on radius.
And it also, Anthony, to that, I think is important to say that it can show you where you are maybe going and mailing to the places that you shouldn't and missing on places that you should. So you're getting, again, the opportunity to be more precise with your targeting based on who's actually coming in and seeing that data.
So you talked there, Jennifer, about effective targeting. So do you have generic or specific customer case studies that you could share with the audience?
Yeah, I'd say we probably be able to speak generically on some situations, and I might butt this one to Anthe, because Anthe is our specialist when it is, working with customers and figuring out how to best approach a campaign to see where your best targets are, and that approach and the tools we use that really uncover that. So maybe I'll let you expand on that one, Anthe.
Sure, I can think of a couple of examples. So I guess I'll start with kind of my geospatial specialty on my side, but here at Canada Post, we do have a visualization tool where we can really map out where did your campaign distribute, and we can overlay the respondents on the map as well. So essentially we're showcasing where we mailed and saw respondents, and where we mailed in the areas and we didn't see respondents. So how can we use those insights to optimize that plan, to kind of assist to maybe reallocate that wastage into more optimal areas where we do see customers? Using this tool, there was one example. It was a retailer, I believe, where we kind of mapped out where their customers were. And we had asked them, well, what kind of radius, what does your trade area look like? And they said something like 15 kilometers. And I said, well, that's great. Where did you get that 15 kilometers from? And they were like, we've just always been doing it. So when we actually mapped out where their customers were coming from, we were able to showcase to them that they were actually coming 40 kilometers away. So again, just making smarter decisions to make sure that you're not wasting your dollars or your transactions there. So I thought that was a really good kind of example on that front. But we do have a couple of other case studies that we can also mention on one front. We did have one case study where our customer, their objective was to win back lapsed customers. And they normally would use our neighborhood mail product, but in this case, because they were pinpointing specific lapsed customers, we kind of eliminated the wastage and went personalized mail only. So it was a one-to-one kind of mail piece that directly spoke to that individual. That gave us a little bit more budget to play with as well, which actually we ended up maximizing 3 different drops, that same individual, within a period of time. Overall, that client saw, I think in their Q4, about 57% lift in their reactivation rates when it came to those lapsed customers. So again, minimizing what you're doing, but doing smarter.
Sebastian, do you have any examples that you can share?
Yeah, I can probably share a good case study that we had. And it's funny enough, coupons, when I started in the industry, coupon was a big thing. Then for a number of years, coupon was not relevant. And then there's a bunch of TV shows on couponing, extreme couponing, and coupon came back and it was a big thing. And we were working with a lot of product launch for milk and bread, and when they do these product launch, and sometimes it's very niche product. Like, remember working with the milk company that was lactose free and organic milk, and they wanted to target across groceries where they sell their product. And how can we fine tune a targeting to have the better ROI? Because with the coupon, what's good about a coupon is that you can see quite quickly what's the redemption of your coupon. So it's an easy way to measure if your campaign has been successful or not with a paper coupon. And we did a very hyper-targeted campaign across the groceries that people that was maybe more in line with products like organic milk, organic product, and lactose free. So we had some marketing variables to target these types of areas where there was a higher percentage of people that would be more in line to buy this type of product. And the results were 5 times greater than our usual redemption of a coupon, which was quite great in the market for us. A coupon campaign, if you go 5 times the average redemption, it's pretty good campaign. So we were quite happy. So that's when we work with the marketing team, it's a very precise project like that. It's fun to see the results from our customers.
Okay, those are great examples. so one of the questions, just listening to you about customer lists and mailing data that you would have, why is it important to clean those customer lists, and how much waste, do you have any benchmark that you could realistically eliminate by cleaning the customer list?
Yeah, I think, I can speak to that a bit. So every year, approximately 140 million pieces of mail are either sent to an incorrect recipient or inaccurate address. So you can think of that number and think about the waste that we have and the opportunity that we have to change that. And where we do the work at Canada Post is with the team that's the data management services team, and they work on data hygiene. And the data hygiene, it plays a very important role when it comes obviously to sustainability and best practices in mail. It can lower undeliverable mail, eliminate duplicate contacts in the data that we're able to see and look through. It allows obviously the elimination of waste from printing and postage costs, and so many other opportunities to really look to clean your data through this management service. So there's different processes that you can put through with Canada Post, and there's probably other elements that MSPs do themselves. But with our data services, we do things like address accuracy, national change of address, deduplication, deceased suppression, and the CMA's do not contact list. And if Andrew could just put up that last slide of mine, it gives a little bit of a view of all the services and the benefits of it. And also I'll provide the link to that as well. I just can't underscore enough the importance of really, before you go into a large campaign, small campaign, whatever it is to make sure that the data that you have is cleaned and put through the data hygiene process. So that there's a little bit more information I can provide that after. Very important.
Very important. Sebastien, is there anything you can add from the Publisac point of view, or is it?
Yeah, and our clients are much more efficient now to change your targeting from time to time and not always aim at the same door, the same people. Before, there used to be this is smart targeting and call it a day, and it's the same reach for the year. Now, from week to week, some clients adjust their marketing campaign or their targeting based on time of the year, based on the season. We have moving day in Quebec. Like sometimes there's like special targeting just before moving day, special targeting for back to school. So data has been changing constantly, even for our mass retailers. They want to optimize their reach, optimize their spend, and it's how do they do they clean their data, how they adjust from time to time. It's quite important for them as well. So.
Okay. What other things should marketers be conscious of when they're designing their campaigns for both print and digital, design options, paper, etc.? So, Sebastien, do you want to start off that?
Yeah. First, I think in the flyer world, obviously the offer is important, because people, when they see flyers, they expect deals, they expect some rebates, they expect that there will be saving some monies in their basket. So that is quite important. I remember working with an American company launching in Canada and doing some campaigns and what's the best way to gain some market share. And they were quite surprised to see that, okay, it's not 10%, it's not 5 to 10% rebate that we need to put on our offers to go get some market share. If we take a look at flyers, it's 30 to 40%, loss leaders on front page and back page. So to have a successful campaign, and I know it's not easy, especially in the for fooders, the market, the profit is quite low on some product. It's not easy. But unfortunately, that's the world of the flyers. Like, the consumers expect having deals and have the bang for their buck. So that's one thing. Maybe another thing I can add as well is that the flower business is also changing because what's the perception of flowers? Flowers always been like a tool to drive to store. It's always been like it's a call to action. It's bring people in store. But now that people are shopping in store and online, it's how can paper flowers can also attract people to buy online. Paper is still important, still well received from people. It's just a personal thought, no stats whatsoever. I think people are on their phone or their laptop so many hours a day. When they get paper at home, they're like, oh my God, I have paper. This is fun. I can sit down and read paper. Oh. So they can use paper flowers and have their app or do some digital, some online buying with a paper flower as well. So it's long gone the days of saying that the paper flower is only a drive to store. I think it's a change on the perception that it's also a drive to web, and it's how it's combining both, which is not easy. And all our clients is trying to measure what's the best way, efficient way to reach consumers, but it's drive people to web and drive people to store. So it's a good combination of both. So.
Oh, thank you. Jennifer, Anthony, do you have anything to add to that? What additional things marketers should consider?
Yeah, on my side, I would consider, if the customer, for example, doesn't collect data, maybe consider putting in a QR code for a measurement piece. Again, we're thinking, how are we measuring and how are we optimizing for future campaigns? So if we put in a QR code, especially for a customer who doesn't collect data, we can measure it, how that campaign did, and re-optimize for future.
Okay, so we're going to start taking some questions from the audience. So put your questions into the chat, and we've already had a couple of questions that have come in. So for both TC and Canada Post, I'll get you to answer this question from one of our audience members. Where can people go to look for these tools, case histories, or how they would engage with you to target their campaigns better geographically? Do you want to start us off, Sebastian?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. How can they,
where would they go to look for how they could engage with you to better target their, to find the case studies that we've talked about, the tools that we've talked about? How do they engage with your company to find these tools?
But us at TC, we have a sales team that work with our existing client, but work also with new clients that would like to start to do a project once in a while, or do a new project and start from there, and to understand what's the objective of the campaign, what's the reach of the consumers, what they're trying to reach as consumers. Do they have data? So for our sales team, they can reach our TC, Publisac, and we also have a Targeo agency in Toronto that specialize in targeting as well. So whether it's Targeo in Toronto or Publisac in Montreal, they're both sales team that could assist our clients to optimize their targeting. So.
Okay, thank you. From the Canada Post perspective, Jennifer, Anthony.
Yeah, I would say similar. I come from the sales team at Canada Post, and I, was there with the process of really making sure our sales team is equipped with the knowledge on the data side, as well as there's so much support from the Canada Post data people like Anthony, who really go in and support our customers and our partners when the conversation is around the data and the targeting and the tools that they can access with Canada Post as well. Also, we have some great resources like Insight Magazine that comes out through our amazing marketing team that highlights fantastic case studies and examples of data and targeting and effective direct mail. I always want to underscore and give that as an example because it's such a fantastic magazine. And how many times a year, Anthony, does that come out? Do you know? I believe it's 4 times a year.
Yes, I believe so.
So that's a great resource as well. So if you don't get Insight Magazine, I suggest looking it up and registering to receive it.
Oh, that's great. So another question that came in from the audience is, what tips would you give to a company that wants to get started with geo-targeting? Sebastian.
Yeah, on our side, I'll just kind of quickly jump in on that, because, you know, whether you're an MSP or an agency or a customer direct or whatever that may be, you're not alone when it comes to targeting. We're here to support you in any way. You know, our sales reps really collaborate with the customers, the agencies, and the MSPs to really come up with a methodology based on the objectives. So we're happy to help whenever. All you have to do is just reach out.
Sebastian?
If I can add that, first of all, to have maybe the 360 profile of your customer. So that's the one thing, because without having the profile of your customer, it's hard to geo-target what are we looking for, what's the reach that we need to attain, and do you have data? It's some companies don't have data, and it's okay. So that's how we assist them without having data. And if they have data, limited or full data, or a lot of it's even easier. So to understand if you have data, don't have data, and who's your customer, make sure you have all the profile in order to help our team to assist you in the targeting.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. So for the audience, keep those questions coming. I just got one in. This is directly for Canada Post, and the person says, I would love to test out the Canada Post visualization app. Is this only available through Canada Post as a service, or can we use it ourselves?
That is,
yeah. I know what that app is, so we can explain what that app is for those of us that don't know what it is. And then,
sure. So the visualization tool that I mentioned earlier is a tool that we launched a couple of years ago, where it really kind of showcases some geospatial data and really tells a story to the customer. So it is a proprietary tool here at Canada Post. We have built it out our own way in our own methodology, but we work with customers. To Sebastian's earlier point, it's really building that needs assessment. And we always talk to our sales reps about this. What exactly is the customer need? What is their objective? What kind of data do they have? We will have those conversations with the customers, and then we'll build that methodology, take it back and build the maps ourselves, and really kind of hone in on different areas where, you know, might be areas to test or even expand. So it's really building that conversation. So if you are interested, I would say reach out to your Canada Post sales rep and we can have further conversations about that.
Okay. So we can't use it on your own. You'd have to use it. Correct. Through Canada
These
Post.
are customized, interactive mapping dashboards that are built specifically for each customer.
Okay. Great to know. I noticed that Andrew just put into the chat the link to sign up for Insight magazine. So do we have, before we start moving towards the end of the webinar, I want to make sure that we've answered everybody's questions. Are there any more questions from the audience? Give it a minute for people to type into their app. Andrew, do you see anything coming in? No. I think the questions are done. So I'd like to thank the panelists from Sebastian from TC and Anthony and Jennifer from Canada Post. It was a very informative webinar today. Everyone, thank you very much. So I just have a couple of quick points. I'm going to reiterate a bit what Andrew said at the beginning of the webinar, that this session was recorded and that the video will be posted to the YouTube channel in the coming days. And a note will go out to everybody who registered for the event when the video gets posted. So if you enjoyed the event, please share the video with your colleagues and stay up on top of our content from the Sustainable Mail Group. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you'll be notified of any new content that gets posted. And finally, please join SMG, as the more people who become part of the community, the better we can provide useful content such as this. So stay tuned for the next webinars, and we'll be posting invitations to our next event very shortly. Thank you very much, everyone.